The massive reconnaissance vessel, Stellar Observer, hung silently in the darkness of space, its iridescent hull reflecting the distant light of Earth's sun. Director Tay stood on the command deck, his elongated fingers tapping impatiently against the viewing console as the ship's sensors compiled data on the third planet in this unremarkable system. "Another primitive world," Director Tay said with a dismissive wave of his hand. The tall, slender alien skin shimmered with a subtle blue phosphorescence, a trait common to his species when experiencing boredom. "They've barely managed to reach their own moon. Add it to the registry as a Class 4 developing world and let's continue our survey." Analyst Sung, hunched over her data terminal, cleared her throat. Unlike Director Tay, Sung belonged to a species known for thorough investigation, her four eyes rapidly scanning multiple data streams simultaneously. "Director, I recommend a more detailed scan before proceeding," she said, her voice measured, but insistent. "There are some unusual readings here," Tay sighed dramatically. The consortium had tasked them with mapping 50 star systems in this sector, and they were already behind schedule. But Sung was rarely wrong in her assessments. "Make it quick," he ordered. The ship's massive sensor arrays realigned, focusing their attention on Earth with unprecedented detail. Data flooded into the ship's central computer as the crew analyzed atmospheric composition, surface structures, and biological patterns. "Fascinating," Sung muttered as she reviewed the results. "The dominant species, these humans, they're physiologically unremarkable. Average strength, limited sensory capabilities, no natural armor or weaponry. As I said, inconsequential," Tay replied, already turning his attention to the next system on their chart. "And yet," Sung continued, her voice trailing off as she dug deeper into the biological scans, "Director, you need to see this." Reluctantly, Tay joined her at the terminal. The screen displayed a comparative analysis between humans and other known intelligent species throughout the consortium. "Look at their endurance metrics," Sung pointed to a glowing graph, "their recovery rate from injury, their ability to adapt to environmental stressors, their cognitive responses to threats. These patterns are remarkably similar to apex predators." Tay finished, his boredom suddenly evaporating. "But that's impossible. Predator species rarely develop advanced civilizations. The aggressive tendencies typically lead to self-destruction before achieving spaceflight." The command deck fell silent as the implications sank in. Throughout the 12 civilizations that formed the Galactic Consortium, only 2 had evolved from predatory ancestors, and both had required extensive genetic modification to temper their natural instincts. "Perhaps we should establish contact," suggested Navigation Officer Han, breaking the silence. "The consortium protocols are clear about newly discovered intelligent life." Director Tai hesitated. "The standard first contact protocols assumed encountering herbivorous or omnivorous species with cooperative social structures, the kind that typically survived long enough to develop space technology. But predators? That required different handling. Prepare a communication probe," he finally ordered. "Standard greeting package, but include extra cultural and behavioral data. Let's see how they respond." The sleek communication probe launched from the Stellar Observer, its sophisticated systems designed to establish contact without revealing the ship's exact location, a precaution Tay now appreciated. The response came faster than anyone expected. Rather than the cautious, fearful reaction typical of most species, encountering evidence of alien life, the humans responded with immediate and enthusiastic messages. They requested face-to-face meetings, offered to share scientific knowledge, and extended invitations to Earth. "Their eagerness is unusual," Han noted, as the communications continued to pour in. "It could be a trap," suggested Security Chief. "Dal, his species naturally prone to suspicion." Analyst Sung shook her head. "I don't think so. Look at these transmission patterns. They're broadcasting our existence across their entire planet. If they meant us harm, they'd be more secretive." After much debate, the consortium authorized a limited diplomatic mission. A small shuttle departed from the Stellar Observer, carrying a team of 4 representatives, specially trained for first contact scenarios. 3 tense days passed before the shuttle returned. The diplomatic team appeared physically unharmed, but visibly shaken. "Report," Director Tay demanded as soon as they returned to the command deck. Lead diplomat Wu stepped forward. Unlike when she had left, her usual composure was noticeably disturbed. "The humans welcomed us with elaborate ceremonies," she began. "They seemed genuinely excited about the possibility of joining the galactic community. They shared their history, their art, their scientific achievements." "That sounds positive," Tay remarked, confused by the team's obvious discomfort. "It was what we observed beyond the official meetings that concerns us," Wu continued. "Their entertainment broadcasts constantly depict violence and conflict. Their history is an endless series of wars. Even their children engage in play fighting," Medical Officer Min added. "I conducted discrete biological scans during our visit. Humans display all the classic physiological responses of predator species: pupil dilation when focused, accelerated cognitive function under threat, a remarkable pain tolerance, and most concerning, they don't flee from danger. They become more alert, more focused. And yet they were friendly to us?" Tay asked, struggling to reconcile these contradictory observations. "Extremely," Wu confirmed. "But we also noticed something peculiar. They seemed to find our appearance cute. Several humans expressed a desire to pet the fur on Min's species." The command deck erupted in shocked murmurs. The concept of an advanced species viewing others as something akin to prey or playthings was deeply disturbing. "Their spacecraft are primitive but incredibly robust," added engineering specialist Back, "built to withstand extreme conditions and continue functioning after significant damage. They design for failure in ways that suggest they expect to encounter combat." Director Tay turned to Analyst Sung, who had been silently processing all this information. "Your recommendation?" he asked. Sung looked up from her terminal, her four eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of deep thought among her kind. "We recommend classification as a potentially dangerous species, but one with significant diplomatic potential," she said carefully. "Their predatory nature is balanced by an unusual capacity for cooperation with those they consider friends. The consortium should proceed with establishing relations, but with extreme caution." Director Tay nodded gravely. What had begun as a routine survey mission had discovered something unprecedented, a predator species that had channeled its aggressive instincts into exploration and innovation rather than self-destruction. "Prepare a full report for the Consortium Council," he ordered. "Mark it as highest priority. These humans may appear technologically inferior, but something tells me we underestimate them at our peril." As the stellar observer prepared to depart, Earth's solar system, Tay found himself standing at the viewing window, watching the blue planet slowly recede from view. For the first time in his long career mapping the stars, he felt a strange emotion, a primal caution that his ancestors might have felt when encountering a beautiful but deadly creature in the wild. The massive Thraki warship, Relentless Claw, emerged from hyperspace with a flash of exotic particles, its angular silhouette blocking the light of Proxima Centauri like an eclipse. Behind it, 5 smaller attack vessels took formation, their weapon systems glowing with standby energy as they approached the small human outpost on the system's 4th planet. Commander Du stood on the command bridge, his scaled hands clasped. Behind his back, as he observed the tiny settlement through the ship's viewing screens, the commander's amber eyes narrowed as he studied what the humans called New Hope Colony, a collection of prefabricated habitats, small manufacturing facilities, and the beginnings of a spaceport. "Pathetic," Du muttered, the sharp ridges above his eyes furrowing in disgust. "They send a mere 100 colonists to claim a star system. The Thraki Empire has already marked for industrial development." Strategic Officer Lee approached and stood at attention. "Our scans confirm 23 structures, Commander. No orbital defenses, a single landing pad, and minimal weaponry. Just standard security measures for wildlife and meteorite defense." Du's mouth twisted into what passed for a smile among the Thraki, a fearsome display of interlocking teeth. "The consortium pampers these humans too much. They need to learn their place in the galactic order." "Sir," Lee ventured cautiously, "I should remind you that Consortium Proclamation 4982 requires formal diplomatic channels for territorial disputes." Commander Du waved his clawed hand dismissively. "We're not going to attack them, merely educate. Them about the realities of space colonization. The Thraki Empire has invested too much in the survey and planning of this system to simply abandon it to newcomers. He turned to his communications officer. Hail the human settlement. Inform them they have established an unauthorized presence in Thraki territory and must evacuate within 12 standard hours. The message was sent, but the response was not what Commander Du expected. Sir, the communications officer reported with confusion, they acknowledge our message but refuse to evacuate. Their colony administrator, someone named Sue, claims they have followed all proper consortium protocols for establishing their settlement and have legal claim to the planet. Commander Du's scales flushed crimson with anger. Show me this human. The main viewer flickered to life, displaying the image of a middle-aged human woman with short grey hair and a weathered face. She stood calmly, hands resting on a simple desk, her expression neither fearful nor aggressive, merely resolute. Commander, she addressed him directly, we respect the Thraki Empire's interests in this system, but New Hope was established according to consortium law. Our survey teams found no claim markers, and we registered our intent with the Galactic Registry 6 standard months ago. We are willing to discuss shared access to resources, but we will not abandon our colony. Du cut the transmission with a violent gesture. Insolence, they think because they have the consortium's favor, they can take whatever they want. He turned to his tactical officer. Launch fighters, target their communications array and power generation facilities. We'll show them what happens when they challenge the Thraki. 6 sleek fighter craft launched from the relentless claw, their engines burning bright against the darkness of space as they descended toward the colony. Their mission was straightforward, a precise strike to cripple the settlement's infrastructure without causing casualties. A show of force that would make the humans realize their vulnerable position and retreat. But as the Thraki fighters entered the atmosphere, something unexpected happened. 3 small craft rose from concealed hangars near the colony. Craft that hadn't appeared on any of the Thraki scans. Commander, Lee called out in alarm, the humans have launched defensive vessels. Du laughed. Their primitive ships are no match for our fighters. Continue as planned. The human vessels were indeed smaller and appeared less sophisticated than the Thraki fighters, but instead of engaging directly, they executed a series of seemingly random maneuvers, splitting up and flying erratically. What are they doing? Du wondered aloud, his amusement turning to confusion. On the tactical display, the human ships suddenly accelerated to unprecedented speeds, executing tight turns that would have crushed most sentient pilots under the G-forces. They didn't fire weapons, but instead flew dangerously close to the Thraki fighters, forcing them to break formation and adjust their attack runs. Sir, the tactical officer reported with growing concern, these human pilots, they're flying directly into our targeting system's blind spots. It's as if they know the weaknesses in our fighter designs. Before Commander Du could respond, one of the Thraki fighters exploded, not from weapons fire, but from an apparent collision with debris. Debris that seemed to have been deliberately placed in the fighter's path at the last second. Impossible, Du roared. How could they predict our attack vector so precisely? 2 more explosions lit up the tactical display as the remaining human ships executed what appeared to be suicide runs toward the Thraki fighters, only to veer away at the last possible moment, leaving the Thraki pilots to crash into hidden minefields or each other as they attempted evasive maneuvers. "Pull back the remaining fighters!" Du ordered, his voice shaking with rage and disbelief. "Prepare the main vessel for direct engagement." But before the relentless claw could bring its powerful weapons to bear on the colony, a new alert sounded across the bridge. "Multiple hyperspace signatures detected," the sensor officer shouted. "Ships emerging with their human military vessels, sir." 3 human warships appeared from hyperspace, their designs unfamiliar to the Thraki database. They were smaller than the relentless claw, but moved with startling agility, immediately taking positions that surrounded the Thraki battle group. "This was a trap," Lee whispered in horror. The colony was bait. A transmission came through on all frequencies. A human man in a simple blue uniform appeared on screen. "This is Captain Jin of the Earth Defense Force. Your unprovoked attack on New Hope Colony constitutes a direct violation of consortium law. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Commander Du slammed his fist against his command chair. We will do no such thing. The Thraki Empire does not surrender to lesser species. All vessels engage. What followed was a battle unlike any the Thraki had experienced. The human ships didn't fight according to any recognizable doctrine. Where Thraki tactics relied on overwhelming firepower and calculated maneuvers, the humans seemed almost improvisational, adapting their approach from moment to moment, using the environment of space itself as a weapon. They lured Thraki vessels into the paths of their own allies' fire. They shut down their ship's power at critical moments to disappear from sensors, only to reactivate in unexpected positions. They deliberately vented reactor plasma to create clouds that disrupted Thraki targeting systems. Within 20 minutes, 3 Thraki vessels had been destroyed or disabled, including 2 of Do's escort ships. The relentless claw itself suffered significant damage to its propulsion and weapon systems. Retreat, Do finally ordered, his voice hollow with disbelief. All remaining vessels, retreat immediately. As the surviving Thraki ships limped back into hyperspace, Captain Juan, the only other commander to escape the ambush, transmitted his final observations to Thraki High Command. They had every opportunity to surrender when we first arrived in force, Juan reported, his voice still shaking. Instead, they appeared to welcome the confrontation. And most disturbing of all, as we destroyed their ships and fired upon their colony, their effectiveness only increased. The humans did not become desperate or reckless as any rational species would. They became more focused, more creative, more lethal. It defies all combat logic we understand. The Galactic Consortium convened an emergency session within days of the incident. Representatives from all 12 member civilizations gathered in the Great Chamber on the neutral world of Harmony to discuss what many were now calling the human question. As the Thraki ambassador presented his empire's formal complaint against Earth, many delegates noticed the subtle looks of fear that passed between the representatives whenever the humans were mentioned. Something had changed in the galactic political landscape. A new understanding that despite their youth as a spacefaring civilization, humans might be the most dangerous species yet encountered among the stars. The grand research facility of the Galactic Consortium hung in space like a glittering jewel, its circular structure rotating slowly to provide artificial gravity for its thousands of inhabitants. Located in neutral space between the territories of the 12 member civilizations, the facility served as the premier scientific institution in known space. In the aftermath of the Proxima Centauri incident, an unprecedented research initiative had been approved by all 12 consortium members. Even the typically isolationist Mokai had voted in favor. The directive was simple yet profound. Understand the humans before it was too late. Researcher Jin moved through the crowded hallway of the xenobiology department, her 4-fingered hands clutching a data tablet containing the latest findings. As lead researcher on the Human Study Project, Jin had assembled the finest scientific minds from across the consortium, experts in evolutionary biology, comparative psychology, military history, and cultural analysis. Jin entered the main conference chamber, where the other researchers were already gathered. The circular room featured a massive holographic projector in its center, currently displaying a slowly rotating image of Earth. Representatives from all 12 species sat at their designated stations, their diverse physiologies making for a striking visual, from the insectoid Zithrak to the gaseous cloud-like Veln contained within their environmental suits. "Let's begin," Jin announced, her voice crisp and professional despite her growing unease about their findings. She touched her tablet, and the holographic display shifted to show human skeletal and muscular structures. For the past 60 days, we've conducted the most comprehensive analysis of human biology and history ever attempted, Jin began. What we've found contradicts many of our initial assumptions about this species. She gestured toward the display. Physically, humans appear unimpressive. They lack natural armor, possess no claws or venomous capabilities, have relatively weak senses compared to most spacefaring species, and their strength is below average for their size category. Biological specialist Yon, a reptilian Sorak, clicked his jaw in the expression of confusion common to his species. Then how did they defeat the Thraki battle group? Superior technology? Jin shook her head. No, their technology is actually less advanced than the Thraki in most respects. The answer lies in their evolutionary history. She changed the display to show ancient human figures pursuing large animals across a savanna landscape. Humans evolved as what they call persistence hunters. Unlike ambush predators, who rely on a single burst of speed or strength, humans would track prey for days, pursuing it until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. Cultural analyst Woon leaned forward, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with interest. That explains their strange combat doctrine. They don't fight to end conflicts quickly. They're built to outlast their opponents. Precisely, Jin confirmed. And this evolutionary strategy created several unique traits. First, humans have unparalleled endurance among intelligent species. They can continue physical activity long after most species would be exhausted. The display changed to show medical scans of human bodies with highlighted features. Second, they possess remarkable thermoregulation. They shed heat through perspiration rather than panting, allowing them to maintain activity while cooling. Third, and perhaps most concerning, is their response to injury. Jin tapped her tablet, and the display showed human medical procedures that made several of the researchers recoil. Humans can continue functioning despite injuries that would incapacitate most species. They've evolved to ignore pain signals that would force other creatures to stop. This trait served them well when pursuing prey. They could endure minor injuries while continuing the hunt. Military historian Pio, a large muscular being with crystalline skin, spoke up. This explains what Captain Huan reported, that the humans fought more effectively as the battle continued. They're literally evolved to perform better under the very conditions most species would consider reason to surrender. Jin nodded gravely. But their physiology is only part of the concern. We've also analyzed their historical and cultural records. With a gesture, she changed the display to show a timeline of human conflicts throughout their history. The timeline seemed almost solid, with overlapping wars, conflicts, and battles stretching back thousands of years. In their recorded history of approximately 5,000 planetary cycles, humans have experienced fewer than 300 cycles of global peace, Jin explained, as the researchers murmured in shock. And most troubling is this pattern. She highlighted a section of the timeline where the conflicts grew increasingly destructive. As their technology advanced, humans didn't become more peaceful as most species do. Instead, they applied each technological breakthrough to warfare. Within a single century, they progressed from limited regional conflicts to global wars that killed millions, and then to weapons that could destroy their entire planet. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. It was environmental anthropologist Moon who finally spoke. But they survived. They didn't destroy themselves. That suggests restraint. Yes, Jin acknowledged. And that's the paradox of humans. Despite their capacity for violence, they also demonstrate remarkable cooperation when united against a common threat. It's as if their predatory instincts can be channeled either against each other or outward. Jin paused before continuing. There's one more aspect of human behavior our team found particularly disturbing. She changed the display again, this time showing sequences of humans engaged in various activities. These are recordings of human recreational activities, Jin explained. We've confirmed these are not military training exercises, but what humans call sports and entertainment. The display showed humans deliberately colliding with each other in organized competitions, climbing sheer cliffs without safety equipment, jumping from great heights, and racing vehicles at dangerous speeds. They voluntarily subject themselves to pain and danger for recreation, whispered Council Member Hyun, who had joined the session to observe. His voice was barely audible, filled with disbelief. Yes, Jin confirmed, and they celebrate individuals who take the greatest risks or endure the most pain. For most consortium species, pain and danger are powerful deterrents. For humans, they can be attractions. Jin changed the display again to show human entertainment media, action movies, combat sports, and adventure documentaries. They create simulations of conflict and danger for enjoyment, she continued. Even their young engage in play that mimics hunting and fighting. From the earliest age, they are culturally conditioned to glorify risk-taking and to find excitement in situations most species would find traumatic. Military historian Pio stood up suddenly, his crystalline form catching the light. I now understand why the Thraki failed. They approached the humans as they would any rational species, with a show of superior force intended to provoke a logical surrender. But humans don't respond to shows of force the way other species do. Jin nodded. Our analysis suggests that threats against humans don't induce compliance. They trigger a heightened state of alertness and creativity. Their historical records show countless examples of human groups prevailing against objectively superior forces through what they call innovation under pressure. Council member Hyun's voice cut through the murmuring that had broken out among the researchers. Your conclusions, researcher Jin. Jin took a deep breath, her 4 fingers nervously adjusting her data tablet. The committee recommends that the consortium recognize humans as a Category 1 precautionary species. Despite their technological limitations, they represent a potentially serious threat if provoked. She hesitated before adding, however, we also note their remarkable capacity for alliance building and cooperation. If carefully integrated into the consortium, humans could become valuable members, particularly in crisis situations where their unique psychological traits might prove beneficial. As the meeting concluded and the researchers filed out, Jin remained behind with council member Hyun. The senior official stared at the holographic display, now showing an ordinary human, family engaged in everyday activities. They look so harmless, Hyun remarked. That may be their most dangerous trait of all, Jin replied softly. We look at them and see a weaker, less advanced species. We don't recognize the predator until it's too late. Hyun nodded slowly. I will convey your findings to the full council immediately. I suspect the proclamation they're already drafting regarding Earth will need to be significantly revised. As Hyun departed, Jin turned back to the hologram, watching the human family laughing together. She couldn't help but wonder what these strange, contradictory creatures might become in 100 years, or 1,000. These persistent predators who had evolved not just to survive but to triumph over adversity through sheer, stubborn determination. The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Consortium resembled an enormous amphitheater with 12 elevated platforms arranged in a perfect circle. Each platform housed the representatives of a member civilization, their architectural styles reflecting the diverse biology and culture of their species. Some delegates sat in conventional chairs, while others lounged in liquid-filled environments, hovered in anti-gravity fields, or perched on crystalline structures. At the center of the chamber stood a circular platform where speakers addressed the assembly. Today, that platform remained empty as the council prepared for the arrival of its most senior member. Elder Kang approaches, announced the metallic voice of the chamber's AI system. The massive doors at the far end of the chamber parted to reveal a small, frail figure. Elder Kang moved slowly toward the central platform, each careful step supported by a hovering mobility aid. Despite his physical weakness, the ancient diplomat's eyes remained sharp, taking in the assembled representatives with a gaze that had witnessed the rise and fall of countless governments across the galaxy. As the oldest living member of the HFY Lari species, Kang's blue-gray skin had faded almost to white, and the neural tendrils that extended from his head, once vibrant and expressive, now hung limply against his ceremonial robes. Yet none questioned his mental acuity or the wisdom accumulated over his 300-year lifespan. Esteemed colleagues, Kang began once he reached the central platform, his voice surprisingly faint. As the oldest living member of the HFY Lari species, Kang's blue-gray skin had faded almost to white, and the neural tendrils that extended from his head, once vibrant and expressive, now hung limply against his ceremonial robes. Yet none questioned his mental acuity or the wisdom accumulated over his 300-year lifespan. Esteemed colleagues, Kang began once he reached the central platform, his voice surprisingly strong despite his fragile appearance. I have served this council for 142 standard years. In that time, I have witnessed 17 species join our community and 3 fade into extinction. I have helped negotiate 53 major treaties and mediated 62 territorial disputes. He paused, his neural tendrils briefly flickering with a pale light, a sign of deep emotion among the Viwailari. Never in my service have I called for an emergency session with the Historical Override Protocol. Today, I invoke that ancient right. Murmurs spread throughout the chamber. The Historical Override was a rarely used provision that allowed the eldest council member to bring forth sealed historical records, information so potentially dangerous or disruptive that it was kept from general knowledge. The humans, Kang continued, have proven themselves to be something our modern consortium has not encountered in millennia. A persistent predator species that has achieved spaceflight without self-destruction. With a gesture from his withered hand, Kang activated the chamber's holographic system. Above the central platform appeared an image of an alien creature unlike any represented in the current consortium. It stood tall and powerful, with a sleek, muscular build, 6 limbs ending in razor-sharp claws, and a head featuring multiple sensory organs arranged around a prominent jaw. This is a Carthid, Kang explained. They are extinct now, but 12 million years ago, they nearly destroyed my species and 3 others that had formed the early foundation of what would later become our consortium. The hologram changed to show primitive spacecraft engaged in battle. Like humans, the Carthid evolved as persistence hunters. Like humans, they developed a remarkable tolerance for pain and stress. Like humans, they became more focused and innovative when threatened. The hologram shifted again, showing the aftermath of what appeared to be a devastating planetary assault. Cities in ruins, landscapes scarred by massive weapons. The early consortium war lasted for 73 years. The Carthid were technologically inferior but continued fighting long after any rational analysis would indicate surrender as the optimal choice. They developed unconventional tactics, weapons specifically designed to target our biological weaknesses, and a disturbing willingness to sacrifice themselves in suicidal attacks. Elder Kang's neural tendrils now pulsed with a stronger light as his emotional state intensified. My ancestors recorded that the Carthid never fought for resource gain or territorial expansion, as most species do. They fought for dominance, to prove their superiority. Each defeat only strengthened their resolve. Each technological setback spurred rapid innovation. He gestured again, and the hologram showed statistical analyses comparing Carthid behavior, patterns to human ones. The overlapping areas of the diagram glowed an ominous red. The research team's findings on human psychology, biology, and history show an 89% behavioral correlation with what we know of the Carthid. The humans display the same resistance to capitulation, the same acceleration of function under pressure, the same cultural glorification of conflict. The council chamber had fallen completely silent. Even the representatives of the normally boisterous Grayskull sat motionless, their usual clicking communications hushed. We survived the Carthid only through the complete deployment of planet-killing weapons, an approach forbidden under our modern ethical frameworks. 22 billion sentient beings died before the conflict ended, including 6 billion from consortium worlds. Elder Kang looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each delegation leader. I do not share this history to advocate for preventative measures against Earth. I share it because we must understand what we are dealing with and why traditional diplomatic approaches will fail. Representative Bak of the militaristic Thraki Empire rose from his seat, his scaled form rigid with barely controlled anger. Then what do you propose, Elder? That we simply allow these humans to expand unchecked? The incident at Proxima Centauri cannot go unanswered. Kang's neural tendrils flashed briefly, a Viwailari expression of grim amusement. On the contrary, Representative Bak, I propose we answer it in the most effective way possible by offering the humans precisely what they think they want. A holographic document appeared above the central platform, a draft treaty with Earth. This is Proclamation 7293, Kang explained. It formally classifies humans as a non-engagement species within consortium legal frameworks. All member civilizations will be forbidden from provoking or engaging in conflict with humans. More importantly, it offers Earth immediate provisional membership in the consortium, with extraordinarily favorable terms. The chamber erupted in confused discussions. Representative Moole of the commerce-focused Vralin Confederacy raised a tentacle in objection. These terms are unprecedented. Access to consortium technology, favorable trade agreements, 3 seats. On the Minor Council, we're rewarding them for attacking a consortium member. No, Kang replied firmly. We are acknowledging reality. The research is clear. Humans cannot be coerced through conventional means. Threats increase their resolve. Military action triggers their evolutionary adaptations for crisis response. But they have another trait the Carthid lacked, a remarkable capacity for alliance building. The hologram shifted to show historical images from Earth, former enemies, signing peace treaties, hostile nations engaging in trade, rival powers cooperating on space exploration. Unlike the Carthid, humans can channel their competitive instincts into cooperative ventures when given sufficient incentive. By bringing them into our community as valued members, we redirect their evolutionary adaptations toward goals that benefit all. The debates continued for hours, with representatives raising concerns about precedent, security, and economic impact. Eventually, Elder Kang called for a vote. All in favor of formally adopting Proclamation 7293, classifying humans as a non-engagement species and offering Earth Provisional Consortium membership. One by one, the delegation lights turned green, even to everyone's surprise, the Thraki, whose earlier hostility seemed to have been replaced by a grudging respect. Within a week, Ambassador Park's diplomatic vessel, the Peaceful Accord, entered Earth orbit. The sleek ship's design intentionally minimized any features that might be perceived as weapons, instead emphasizing its scientific and diplomatic capabilities with transparent observation domes and elaborate external art, depicting the 12 consortium species. The human delegation received Ambassador Park in a hastily prepared facility in Geneva. The ambassador, chosen specifically for his calm demeanor and non-threatening appearance, presented the consortium's offer with elaborate ceremony. The human negotiators were visibly confused by the generous terms. They had prepared extensively for hard bargaining, expecting to fight for every concession. Instead, they found themselves being offered everything they wanted and more. "Ambassador," said the lead human negotiator after reviewing the documents, "these terms are extremely favorable to Earth. May I ask why the consortium is being so accommodating, especially after the unfortunate incident at Proxima Centauri?" Ambassador Park smiled gently, his neural tendrils glowing with carefully controlled patterns that the translator rendered as sincere goodwill. "The consortium recognizes humanity's unique potential," he replied smoothly. "Your species has demonstrated remarkable resilience, adaptability, and innovation, qualities we value highly. We believe that together we can achieve far more than separately." The human negotiators exchanged puzzled glances, but were not inclined to question their good fortune. Within days, the treaty was signed, and Earth began its integration into the galactic community. As Ambassador Park's ship departed Earth orbit, he recorded his final observations for the Council. "The humans suspect nothing," he noted. "They believe their victory at Proxima Centauri impressed us, but they do not understand the true reason for our generosity. I observed their military leaders during the negotiations. They were disappointed by our peaceful approach. They were eager to prove themselves against us." He paused, neural tendrils flickering with a complex emotion that had no direct translation. "Elder," Kang was right. Better to make them our allies than our enemies. Better to harness their predatory instincts than to trigger them. The humans have a saying that seems appropriate: "Keep your friends close and your enemies closer." Perhaps they understand themselves better than they realize. The consortium capital world of Harmony glittered beneath the light of its 3 moons, its sprawling cities blending seamlessly with the natural landscape. Towering crystal spires housed the administrative centers where representatives from hundreds of worlds conducted the business of maintaining peace across 50,000 light-years of civilized space. Admiral John Kim stepped off the quantum teleportation platform, adjusting to the slightly lower gravity, with the practiced ease of someone who had visited dozens of alien worlds. At 52, Kim had risen through the ranks of the Earth Defense Fleet to become its highest-ranking officer, responsible for humanity's growing armada of interstellar vessels. Admiral Kim, welcome to Harmony, greeted a tall, willowy being whose translucent skin revealed the complex network of luminescent, circulatory pathways beneath. I am Liaison Day. Elder Kang is honored by your acceptance of his invitation and awaits you in the Memorial Gardens. Kim nodded respectfully, handing his ceremonial sidearm to the security detail as required by consortium protocol. After 20 years of membership, humans had learned to navigate the complex social requirements of galactic society, though many still found certain alien customs bewildering. Lead the way, Liaison Day. I've been looking forward to seeing the gardens since I first heard about them at the Academy. They boarded a silent, floating platform that whisked them through the capital's central district. All around them, representatives of dozens of species went about their business. Kim noted with interest how many turned to observe his passage, not with hostility, but with a curious, almost wary respect. The Memorial Gardens occupied a vast dome at the heart of the capital complex. Unlike the geometric precision of the surrounding architecture, the gardens were wild and seemingly untamed, featuring plant species from every consortium world arranged in a breathtaking tapestry of colors and forms. Near a small blue pond, surrounded by swaying silver grasses, Elder Kang waited. The ancient diplomat's hoverchair rested just above the ground, its quiet hum barely audible over the gentle sounds of flowing water and rustling vegetation. Admiral Kim, Kang greeted, his neural tendrils glowing with a warm blue light that the translator implant in Kim's ear rendered as friendly respect. Thank you for indulging an old being's request for company. Kim bowed in the traditional VY Lari manner, careful to maintain the proper angle to show respect without subservience. The honor is mine, Elder. Your request came as a surprise, but a welcome one. After dismissing Liaison Day, Kang gestured toward a path winding deeper into the gardens. His hoverchair moved smoothly alongside Kim as they walked. I have followed your career with interest, Admiral, Kang said after a comfortable silence. Your handling of the Orion Nebula pirate situation was particularly impressive. Creative, yet restrained. Kim smiled slightly. We achieved our objectives. With minimal loss of life on either side, that's always the goal. Indeed, Kang replied, his neural tendrils flickering briefly. And yet I couldn't help but notice the pirates immediately surrendered when they realized they faced human vessels. Most curious, given their previous defiance of consortium patrols. They paused beside a memorial stone inscribed with characters from a dozen languages. Kim recognized the monument from his diplomatic briefings. It commemorated the founding of the consortium hundreds of millennia ago. Do you know why I requested a private meeting, Admiral? Kang asked, his voice taking on a more serious tone. Kim shook his head. Your message mentioned historical perspectives that might be of interest to Earth's military leadership. Beyond that, I assumed it related to the upcoming renewal of our membership agreements. In a manner of speaking, yes. Kang's hoverchair elevated slightly so he could meet Kim's eyes directly. Admiral, you are now the highest-ranking military official your species has ever sent to Harmony. In the 20 years since Earth joined the consortium, humans have integrated into our community with remarkable speed. You now serve on peacekeeping missions, participate in scientific exchanges, and contribute to cultural programs. Kang paused, his ancient eyes studying Kim intently. Yet in all this time, no human has ever been told the complete truth about Proclamation 7293, the agreement that brought Earth into the consortium with such generous terms. Kim's expression remained diplomatic, but his interest was clearly piqued. We assumed it was recognition of our potential as allies, combined perhaps with some guilt over the Proxima Centauri incident. A sound emerged from Kang that the translator rendered as gentle laughter. A reasonable assumption, but far from complete. The elder gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the air between them, showing statistical models and prediction. Matrices too complex for Kim to immediately decipher. What you're seeing, Admiral, is a predictive analysis created 20 years ago, a projection of what humanity might become if forced into prolonged interstellar conflict. The hologram changed to show images that made Kim's blood run cold. Human warships of unprecedented size and destructive capability, weaponized biological agents specifically tailored to target alien physiologies, and most disturbing of all, simulations of human soldiers undergone extreme physical modifications for combat in various environments. We showed you unusual deference not from generosity, but fear, admitted Kang. His neural tendrils now pulsing with colors the translator struggled to interpret. This analysis, compiled by our finest xenobiologists and military historians, predicted with 89% certainty that if humans engaged in sustained interstellar warfare, you would become something the galaxy has not seen in 12 million years, an apex predator species with spaceflight capability and a psychological architecture optimized for conflict. Kim stared at the projections, professional composure momentarily forgotten. These modifications, these weapons, we've never even conceived of most of these. But you would have, Kang said quietly. Under sufficient pressure, facing extinction or subjugation, your species' remarkable capacity for innovation under threat would have led you here within 3 generations. The hologram shifted again, showing Earth's current military compared to the projection. The difference was stark and chilling. The Thraki expected your colony at Proxima Centauri to surrender when confronted with superior force, because that's what any rational species would do. Instead, your people fought with increasing effectiveness as the battle progressed. That single incident confirmed what our preliminary studies had suggested. Humans possess psychological and physiological adaptations that make them uniquely dangerous in prolonged conflict. Kim found himself at a loss for words, staring at the images of what humanity might have become. We consider ourselves relatively peaceful now, Kim said quietly after a long moment. That is precisely what terrifies us, replied Kang. This is your species at peace. Your entertainment still glorifies conflict. Your children still play at warfare. Your sports still celebrate controlled violence. Even your approach to scientific discovery is framed as a battle against ignorance. The Elder's hoverchair descended slightly, a gesture of vulnerability among the Viwelari. The Consortium Council faced a choice: attempt to contain humanity through force, which our models predicted would ultimately fail at catastrophic cost, or integrate your species into our community as valued members, redirecting your evolutionary adaptations toward mutual benefit. Kim's mind raced as 20 years of diplomatic history suddenly appeared in a new light. The technology sharing. That had seemed so generous. The territorial concessions that had surprised Earth's negotiators, the rapid acceptance of humans into consortium institutions. You've been domesticating us, Kim said, the realization dawning slowly. Kang's neural tendrils flashed briefly. I would prefer to call it alliance building, Admiral. We recognized in humanity something rare, a predator species with the capacity for genuine cooperation and empathy. The Carthid, the only similar species we previously encountered, lacked this dual nature. They could only destroy. Humans can create. The hologram shifted one final time, showing the current state of human integration into the consortium. Joint. Scientific missions, cultural exchanges, diplomatic cooperatives. The proclamation was never about fear alone, Admiral. It was about hope. Hope that by welcoming humanity, rather than fighting you, we could gain the benefits of your unique perspective, while helping you channel your evolutionary heritage toward peaceful purposes. Kim walked a few paces away, needing space to process this revelation. The garden's beauty suddenly seemed like an elaborate deception, a pretty cage designed to contain a dangerous animal. But was it? 20 years of consortium membership had brought unprecedented prosperity to Earth. Diseases that once plagued humanity had been cured, environmental damage had been repaired, poverty had been all but eliminated, and humans had begun to explore the galaxy not as conquerors, but as partners. Why tell me this now? Kim finally asked, turning back to the ancient diplomat. Because the proclamation expires next year, Kang answered simply. The Council must vote on its renewal. Some younger members, who did not witness the original research, question the need for special protocols regarding humanity. They see only your contributions, not your potential threat. The elder's gaze was steady, his neural tendrils glowing, with a color Kim had never seen before. I believed someone in authority should know the truth, should understand what we saw in humanity, both the danger and the promise. Kim stood silently, contemplating the weight of this knowledge. As a military leader, he understood strategic deception, containment protocols, threat assessment. But this was different. This was his entire species being handled like an unpredictable weapon. I should be offended, Kim finally said. Any human would be. Yet you're not, Kang observed, because you recognize the truth in our assessment. Kim sighed. I've read our history. I've commanded troops in crisis situations. I've seen how we respond to threats. There's wisdom in your approach, Elder Kang, even if the deception troubles me. The Admiral walked back to the ancient diplomat, his decision made. I'll support the renewal of the proclamation, though perhaps with modifications that acknowledge how far we've come. 20 years of peace has changed us too, Elder. We're learning to direct our persistence toward challenges other than conflict. Kang's neural tendrils glowed with what the translator rendered as profound relief. That is all we ever hoped for. Admiral Kim, not to change humanity's nature, but to help direct it toward its highest potential. As they continued their walk through the gardens, Kim reflected on humanity's dual nature, their capacity for both terrible violence and remarkable compassion. He understood now why the consortium had decided they would never fight the humans, not because they couldn't win, but because victory would require becoming something worse than what they feared humans might become. And in that understanding, perhaps humanity had taken its first true step into the galactic community, not as conquerors or subjects, but as partners aware of both their strengths and their dangers. The end.